What's up? This is Brian Funk, Ableton Certified Trainer, and I'm happy to share with you the Cassette Tape Synths Ableton Live Pack. I programmed a whole bunch of patches on these synths you see beside me here, and recorded 54 long samples that I've recorded directly to my cassette tape player. From there, I took those samples and put them into Ableton Live and built the cassette tape synths, so you get these really cool hardware analog synthesizer sounds through a cassette tape for that warmth and nostalgic saturation that tape has, a little bit of hiss, a little bit of grit, and put them into this Ableton Live Pack. You've got 54 different sounds, 16 macro controls to customize them, and then 20 different macro control presets. So if you think about it, 54 times 20, over 1,000 different sound possibilities. And the cool thing about these sounds is the longer you hold them down, the more the samples evolve, because I was controlling parameters on the synths themselves while recording the sample. So no sample is just a solid static sound, it's always evolving. And I give you the option to actually change the start time of the sample too. So you really got a ton of possibilities with sound, and it's just like a cassette tape dream of a synthesizer. So let me show you how it works. This is the initial sound you'll get. It's the first synth sound with really no macro controls on it doing much of anything. This is the pure sound. And we can go through our different synth sounds with this first macro control. So they're numbered. I'm just playing some notes so you can hear some of the different sounds. It's a noise. And the longer you hold down these notes, the more the sounds evolve and change, because I'm manipulating parameters on each sample as I go, and they go for about an average of 20 seconds each. You can hear all the kind of fun stuff I'm doing. Now you've also got all these macro controls. So we've got one called Initialize, which is really the pure sample playing back. We've got Pad, which turns it into a pad. So if we were to play that and then change the synth sound, we've got 54 different pads now to choose from. We can make pluck sounds with this one. And that's 54 different plucks. Then we got a bunch of more kind of experimental things happening. Ascension. Let's try problematic. We'll switch the sound. Talk to me. And I'll get into what all these macro controls can do, but there's a whole bunch of them here that you can play around with and try things out. And you can even hit the random control and just sort of see what you get. So let's go back to Initialize and start from scratch and just hear what these sounds are and what we can do with them. First, we got our volume envelope. This allows us to create like a long fade in or an attack. We can bring that down and it starts instantly. We can change how long it takes for the sound to fade out after we let go of our keys. And we can use the sustain to create little pluck sounds. So a lot of control right there just with those parameters there. Let's hit Initialize again to start over. Next, we got the filter frequency. And I'm going to open this up to just show you what's going on in here, because I've got the new auto filter inside of Live 12.2, which has a lot of cool different filter types. So as I'm playing around with my different filters, I can change the filter type and get some of these really cool new stuff we have. Like, for instance, let's take a look here. This is our DJ filter, which is like a low pass and a high pass in one, which is really handy for just making cool evolving sounds. Comb filter. Change our sound. We've also got a filter envelope, so we can move that filter over time and in response to the volume of the sound. Pretty neat. So I recommend you play around with these different filter circuits because they're quite a lot of fun. And you get a lot more mileage out of this pack as you start playing around with the different filter types. So you can see you can do lots of cool stuff. Let's initialize this again so we're starting fresh. Pure tones. The chorus ensemble is being used to create a vibrato, which I'm calling pitch wobble. So this will recreate the sound of like an old cassette tape that's not really working so well. So you get a little pitch. You can go extreme, or you can do something more subtle. That'll just give you some inconsistencies in your sound. So if I'm going for this, I like to kind of crank it up about 20 maybe, and something nice and slow like this. So that we're getting just some movement in the pitch. If I were to put a tuner on here, you'll see what's happening. Playing a note, and we're watching that move, and that's because of this vibrato pitch effect here. Make it a little more extreme so you can really see it didn't work. That's what we're doing to the pitch. And that's kind of what happens with a cassette tape, because things don't play back at proper speeds and the pitches change as these cassette machines get older and more worn out. So you can have fun with that. We've got a delay. Nothing too crazy about this delay. Just we've got ourselves our dry wet, our time, and our feedback. But it adds a lot to each sound. Really nice. I love the delay on these sounds. It just brings them to life. Here, I'm going to hit initialize again. And now this is something I think is really fun and unique about this pack, is this sample start time. So I'm using an LFO, which is available in all versions of Live. So this pack will work in intro to suite. And the LFO is going to modulate where the sample starts from. So right now, before I even get to the LFO, let's just use the sample start knob here. So you can hear the tone changes a little, pick a different sound. So I'm playing the same note over and over again, but I'm getting a different sound based on where the sample is beginning its playback from. This is a good example. A little more bell-like in the beginning. So I said there's 54 sounds and there's 20 different macro presets. If you do the math, that's like over 1,000 sounds. But if you consider that the different sample start times will yield different sounds as well, there's even more sounds that you can get out of this pack, which is pretty cool. Now, where the LFO comes into play is by randomizing this sample start knob. So this LFO creates a random waveform over here, and that's mapped to the sample start time. So if you look, this little blue line is how this sample start knob is being modulated. So every time I play a note now, I get a different start time. So I think it's pretty cool because you can be playing something, and every single time you play the same exact thing, you get a different sound. Not just from some randomization. So again, combine that with the different sounds, combine that with some of our different macro controls. This is the Dizzy Looper. So it creates like basically loops for you. And it's different every time because of this randomized sample start. And the final control here is tape hiss. That's just cassette tape hiss cranked up real loud. That's the sound the tape makes when there's nothing playing. And it's a really nice flavor to add into any one of these sounds. If I can bring in this tape hiss, there's another texture to the sound now. So it's a pretty cool little way to add some more analog cassette tape feeling to it. And that's really it. That's the pack. It's kind of an endless collection of fun sounds. Every time I open it and click on a different macro preset, I get a new sound, and it's a lot of fun just to see what you get. So if you love the sound of cassette tapes and like the old school vibe that stuff has, the saturation, the nostalgia, I think you're going to really love the Cassette Tape Synths Ableton Live Pack. Check it out at my site, brianfunk.com. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.